What happens if I send a bracket order, if the broker doesn't support this feature? Will the trade entry still get executed?
Yes. It just gets ignored basically. And I've debated if that behavior is correct or not. But the scenario that I was trying to handle was if a strategy, say you're subscribed to like a strategy that you got from someone else, and in that strategy it has the take profit and stop loss configured, and you can't stop it from sending that. Um, then if you hook it up to a broker that doesn't support that, then it would just ignore that. Otherwise, it would reject it, and you'd have no way to like execute that trade without the take profit or stop loss. So maybe in the future we add some kind of checkbox or something, to reject it. But right now, yeah, if you connect it to a broker that doesn't support it, it will just ignore it and it won't send the take profit and stop loss along with the entry.
Does it make sense to have it so that, let's say it comes through, it enters the trade, and when it gets filled, the bracket order gets split up, and then two trades are sent, like the stop loss and the take profit are sent in order to simulate that bracket order?
And we've thought about doing that, but the problem is that brokers don't support, not all brokers support the ability to send a bracket order separately. Like you have to send the bracket order with the entry. I could send two separate orders, one stop market order for the stop loss and one limit order for the take profit, but they wouldn't be OCO'd together.
I see.
So if one fills, now you have this other order just sitting out there open still. And maybe we could track it and cancel it ourselves, but uh,
That's dangerous.
it gets dangerous. Yeah. And like a lot of brokers don't want you to implement your own order types. They actually like disallow you from, or it's hard for them to know if you're doing it,
They
but
discourage it.
they discourage it. And it's one of the questions that like Interactive Brokers, Schwab, they all ask, a lot of these brokers ask these questions when you're onboarding is like, do you implement custom order types outside of what the brokers allow? Um, and it's risky for us to do that because if you think about it, like if we send the entry order but the broker doesn't support the bracket order, so we wait for that entry order to fill, and then some amount of time after that entry order is filled we then send the take profit and stop loss. So there's this window of time, albeit it could be small, 100 milliseconds or less. If the price wicked up or down really fast in that 100 milliseconds, uh, and your stop loss isn't in the broker yet, it could be missed. So there's no way for us to atomically send all of that information at once, so that there's no chance that you have that 100 millisecond window where your position is technically unprotected. So it seems easy and obvious, but that's kind of the reason why I've always never wanted to implement that. Mike and I have talked about it a lot.
I think there's versions of it that we'd like to explore, particularly how we place the take profit and stop loss by observing what your average entry price is after the fact. And that is something I think we can do, that I think would be supported by the brokers from a encouraging standpoint, or like they won't discourage it. Is that the right way to say
Yeah.
it?
So that's the one where we replace the order, like submit it with the entry, with the bracket. And then once it fills, we run a replace with the updated price based on the average entry price.
Correct. That accounts for slippage, which should change the accuracy of your take profit and stop loss as a result.
Right.
So I think that's one of the types of algorithmic orders that TradersPost can implement. Beyond that, we'll have to carefully consider some of these other scenarios.